So yeah, I've done like 20 campaigns on Iron Man Impossible, and it's not gone very good. So I think what I'm going to do is take a bit of a step back and do a nice little brutal campaign, while also trying to do something a little bit educational for people that are either pretty new to Long War Rebalance, or at least new to the like higher difficulties of it, I guess. We're gonna see. But I'm basically just gonna do an overview of like typical like build progressions, what the different mechanics are, how you use them in battle, yada yada. So we're gonna do it like this. I'm going to choose Not So Long War. For anyone who is not aware of it, the description here is like half the story. Basically, you do half the amount of missions over the course of the campaign, but things that depend on missions are also scaled appropriately. So like your soldiers gain twice as much fatigue and injury, you get twice the amount of loot, or rather, resource requirements are halved for stuff. And basically it's just like the same overall sort of progression, but everything depending on missions scales. You can also do the opposite if you want to, but for the purpose of a campaign like this, I think we would rather have it be pretty fast. I think that's all we're gonna choose. So yeah, let's get it out of the way. Now, of course, there are a billion start bonuses you could choose from. Some are a little more game warping than others. You know, this is very good for like a psionic focus campaign. This one relies heavily on your infantry and assaults to hopefully spam a lot of fire at the enemies, yada yada. Now for the purpose of this campaign, I'm going to try and do something a little more basic. The most basic by far is of course this one. No regional bonus. We're not going to do that though. We're going to choose a little something. Usually in terms of starts that I recommend for somebody pretty new, it would be something like this, just a simple little stat buff that's not warping. Something like Jungle Scouts, it minimizes the punishment from injuries, but it's otherwise pretty vanilla. You could do something like, let's say, I mean, something like this is probably fine, it just gives you a head start. There's a few starts like that. I'll have to decide which one I want to go for here. But yes, some starts are far more warping than others and are liable to like completely change the way you play. For a campaign like this, we don't want something like that. So, I don't know. Let's just choose the Australian start, this one. It has an average amount of starting money, and everybody is just a little better than average. That's about it. And the way the second part works is that every month in the game, you've got a whole lot of, I say a whole lot, you get a little bit of bonus stats. And for this, it's like twice as many months have passed. Wow. Fancy. Yeah, it's a nice little start. So every campaign
for this mission will be in India.
Every campaign begins with the colloquially named Gate Crasher. You know, a reference to XCOM 2. It's always on this map. You always have the same soldiers on it unless you chose the second wave option. Your barracks in general is always the same every campaign.
This is central. You are free to engage all hostile contacts in the area.
I will show this. I'm not gonna like stop and read it, but just for anyone looking at the VOD or whatever that wants what is currently in here documented, I'll go ahead and click through it. this tends to be a pretty good overview of all of the, like, different mechanics of the mod compared to vanilla XCOM. And there's a lot of it. I haven't read over this recently, so I don't know if it's entirely accurate at this moment in time. But it should be. And yeah, there you go. Tutorial text. Beautiful. So yeah, your starting mission is always this same loadout. You've got the Shiv, and then you've got 5 soldiers with like a variety of equipment. They have tack armor, if they're not too slow without it. Which it seems like everybody is pretty reasonably speedy, except for you. Graf is really slow, so they have the vest, which is why they have so little health. So, normally with this kind of mission, I just kind of run in because it's the first mission of the campaign. And you may as well try and get a good start off. So we're gonna do a little bit of a risky maneuver. We're just going to see if anybody is on the roof.
Time to motor. That's what we're looking for.
It doesn't seem like anybody is on the roof. Let's do the same on the other side.
Moving to designated position.
Alright, there still could be enemies over on this side of the roof, but we've got a pretty decent place we can just set up. So, just in case there are enemies here, I don't really want to activate them, so I'm trying to get as far up onto this roof as I can without pathing in a way that'll see the street. So we'll go over like here. See if it activates anything. Nope. Yeah, Roberts can just step in his footsteps. If you're ever not sure, always just follow the footsteps of somebody else. Because in that case, they can't possibly trigger anything, as long as you follow in their exact footsteps. Now, unlike vanilla XCOM and Long War gameplay, triggering pods is not really the end of the world. You get scamper moves to try and adjust if something bad happens. You still don't want to, like, do it if you can help it, though. But Long War Rebalance is designed around pretty sketchy fights happening consistently. Well, we heard some glass break on the right, so we can probably actually see where they are. It looks like this glass has been broken. So the aliens are somewhere in this area, right? As for where, I don't know exactly, but we'll find out. Let's see. Let's go ahead and get the Shiv in here to see if we can see him. Hello? Okay. We see the outsider. So, the alien was prepared. In general, in Long War Rebalance, when you reveal small numbers of enemies or like a single pod at a time, they'll get a little bonus to make alpha striking them a bit more difficult. Combat readiness is something you'll see on units all over the place. It's most commonly gotten when you just end your turn with AP remaining. It gives you a wide variety of small little bonuses. But, for the purposes of aliens, the most important part is that they get Graze chance, and it works the same way as it does at XCOM 2, where it'll have your damage. So you don't want to deal with that if you can help it. Now, they also go on automatic overwatch, a few of them. But, I guess for the first alien of the campaign we get to explain the good old outsider. So the main thing about outsiders is that you might notice they've got a little circle of death Outsiders have close combat specialists, and that's usually the most defining part of them. We'll just run behind here and we can take a look. They do pretty decent damage. They don't have a lot of armor health. So like, they have 5 base HP and 1 armor. That's what you can see by the white pip here. But, that 1 armor health that they do have is giving them 50 base DR. Now the way DR works in this is that it just kinda takes all of your sources, adds it together, and then this is the percent damage reduction you have. Outsiders have a ton of base DR, but base DR goes down with armor HP damage. So, as soon as we deal this 1 point of damage, this guy will lose all 50 of this and go down. So we'll take a little hit here. We have a little bit of pin just directly counteracts DR. But let's see if we can get rid of that. Yeah, there we go. We bonked him on the head. We did damage. The chance to break an Overwatch is based on the amount of health damage you do. So we did 2 out of 5. That was a 40% chance. There you go. It's like a half measure between the way it works in vanilla XCOM and the way it works in XCOM 2, where any damage breaks Overwatch. Let's go ahead and finish off this guy. The other notable part about Outsiders is that they have regeneration. They will regenerate to full base health if you're not careful. Yeah, Regenesis. Don't want to let that happen. Yeah, but can't regenerate when he's dead. So let's continue. Let's just keep moving forward and see if the roof is clear. The roof seems pretty certainly clear at this point. So the other aliens are probably on this side in this building, or they're over in the corner or something. Gatecrasher always has 2 sectoid pods that sometimes have a drone, and then an outsider.
Headed there now.
The exact amount depends on difficulty though. I believe on lower difficulties the outsider isn't present at all.
Yes, Commander. Enemy spotted.
Sorry. Well, I guess we'll get to show off the scamper moves. So anytime you activate aliens, once per turn, if you have 0 AP you get a scamper move. You can't shoot or anything, but you do get to do what the aliens do, and dash to good cover. Sometimes you can use it to your advantage. But in general, it's kind of a way to just prevent a fuck up. You can also activate combat readiness off this action. Alright. Well, we know they're down there doing something. Question is what? Let's go take a look with you. Hello? Yeah, they're doing something suspicious. If we can't see them. Maybe we'll get a line of sight from opening this door. Okay, so it looks like the aliens went and ran off to the left here. So one important thing you might notice is that unlike vanilla gameplay and vanilla Long War gameplay, we cannot activate Overwatch at all. Overwatch in Long War Rebalance is very much more of an offensive tool than it is like a crawl around the map, keep your flank safe sort of tool. It can only be used against targets that are in sight, but it'll act on any action, and it also ignores half of their cover's benefits. And it also has a chance to stagger, which will cause automatic grazes. So it's really good for stalemates and things like that. But for now, we just kind of have to play it a little safe. We don't know where the sectoids are. So we're just going to move a little bit and let them reveal themselves.
That's affirmative.
We will keep somebody up here though, just to draw their attention a little bit. And we'll hunker. Hunker works pretty similarly to how it works in the base game. Just makes your cover better. Oh. Well, we now know where the sectoid is. He's over here somewhere, which is kind of what we thought. Alright. We are prepared for next turn. Dope. So one important thing is that you can't door block aliens anymore. They will open doors automatically at the start of their turn if they're near one. So yeah, he took a shot at us, but high cover gives a lot of defense. By default, high cover gives you 50% DR and 50 defense, so not only did he have a pretty poor chance to hit in the first place, but he did half the damage. And since he did 5 damage, half of that is 2.5. But everything rounds down at the end, so he did 2. High cover will keep your soldiers alive. You should not be afraid to take hits. Long War Rebalance is designed around a lot of hit taking. Now here's another part about cover. If you're ever directly beside a wall like this, it counts as being point blank. And if you're point blank, which you can see from this bonus, it counts as if they're not in cover at all, except for perks that might give them bonuses while they're in cover. So this guy is basically just point blank flanked. And we also have a bonus pinpoint accuracy here. If you ever have shot chances above 100%, you get extra crit out of it. Pretty cool. And I guess while we're here, we should talk about the sectoid a little, huh? They probably do a lot of what you're familiar with from regular Long War. They have basic psionics. They do a very similar thing. Mind Merge, also a very similar thing. The two things they do that are particularly important to keep in mind, though, is that A, they have Plasma Ranger, so they have 1 AP reloads on their pistols, and also pistols don't have a range penalty. I forget if that's a mechanic in Long War 1.0 or not, but pistols lose accuracy at range. Sectoids are fine. They can also very occasionally use a Psychic Storm, and this is going to hit you regardless of where you are, and they tend to prefer using this if you try and run away from them, to disincentivize disengaging and waiting around. I'm not going to go over all of it, but generally it's a bad thing to get hit by it, so you don't want to let it happen.
That's affirmative.
Alright, let's see, where's the other guy at? There is one sectoid somewhere. We need to find him. Where did he go? I'm frightened. We'll send the Shiv out here. The Shiv is all reliable. The Shiv is just pretty tanky at a baseline, and notably, it can't be flanked. So if you're ever scared, let the Shiv tank some hits for you, at least early on. Eventually that becomes a little less reliable.
Roger, tracking. Oh, yes.
Alright, now we need to see where that other sectoid went.
Closing on target position now.
Alright, well we heard some footsteps over in this general area. I don't know if it's the same sectoid or not. Whenever you go to your F1 menu that shows everything, you can see active aliens. We know there's one sectoid somewhere. He probably kept running off to the side here, so let's see. Can we find him anywhere? No. Well, at least it doesn't seem like we're at risk of being flanked by him. He must have ran off. Although there don't appear to be any broken windows or anything. Let's go send the Shiv and see. Sectoid's doing something suspicious. Now, we don't want to take a shot to the back, but your soldiers are generally tanky enough to survive a hit like that. Depends on your loadout and your build, of course. Oh, we found the other sectoids. Alright, they didn't go on Overwatch this time. Now, see, this is a case where Steady and Overwatch have been reworked, and this is a time where you might use them. So if we look here, the shot is kind of piss poor, right? Like, it's only a 38% to hit, and although we have a high crit chance, your crit chance is capped at your hit chance. So shots like this are just not very good. So in a situation like this, you have two options, really. Well, three. One, you could steady. Steadying gives you huge bonuses on your shots. But if you take any damage, switch weapons, or move, you'll lose the bonus. And one important thing is that it acts as an Overwatch counter. Because this new version of Overwatch can be really scary in the middle of a fight. So we can either Overwatch, which will often scare the aliens into not wanting to move very much because of how it works in vanilla, but it also is a way to get more accuracy because it ignores some of the cover. Now the downside is that the aliens can, for example, mind merge a sectoid and then eat the Overwatch shot with that. Or they can send somebody around the flank and break your Overwatch. But in cases like this, I like to Overwatch. It can get you some pretty safe damage. And it lets you get into a better position. Because they're not going to want to move under your Overwatch.
On the move.
So we're going to send other people up. Let's see, there is a pipe there, so we have to be a little careful about them moving to flank us. Send you here.
Double time.
We do still have to keep a lookout for wherever that one other random sectoid is. I don't know where he is, but we should be able to take one hit safely from him. Sometimes if you can't find an alien, it's because they ran off to the corner of the map because they got scared. They will retreat if they get scared. By killing a lot of your soldiers or whatever. A lot of their soldiers, rather. Nope. Hey. So we got a hit here. The stagger chance is equal to the health, like Overwatch break. And, well, I mean, we just killed the guy. But stagger gets rid of the rest of their AP, and it'll also cause any shots to automatically graze. So it's a pretty good way of locking down aliens. But, I mean, we just killed the guy. Killing an alien is also pretty good. So let's go see what we see.
Alien object in sight.
Oh hey, the other sectoid ended up here somehow. Wonder how he got here. I guess maybe he ran through the place? I don't know. But this is a good position for us to throw grenades. Now, grenades in Long War Rebalance don't have quite as much cover destruction capabilities. If we hit the I button, you can, like, see health of various objects throughout the world. For the most part, your average explosion does 35 damage. At point blank. It decreases with distance. So your grenades are typically much more about just doing direct damage than they are any kind of cover destruction. They also have a chance to disorient enemies, which is like what happens with a concussion. So we're going to throw the grenade like here. Explosives do half damage at the periphery, so it's not super worth. There we go. See? That guy got disoriented. Same chance as all the other stuff. We did 5 out of their 6, so we had a 5/6 chance to disorient them. And disoriented aliens are pretty pathetic. They have huge penalties here, and if you disoriented them, they're probably also afflicted by red fog. Which is another important thing. So as you can see, this poor sectoid has negative 27 aim. He is probably not going to hit us. Probably. Unlike Long War, there is no, like, 1% hit chance that can happen. As hit chances get lower and lower, the amount each negative aim affects you by is lessened. So, like, once you get below 20 aim, it takes 2 less aim to go down by 1%, and once you get below 10 aim, it's like 4%, something. So it's really hard to reduce enemies to a minimum chance to hit. Again, kind of reinforces that you're supposed to take some hits. You can never make yourself completely safe. But, you know.
Roger that.
Now, my shot's not great, because I'm currently Mind Frayed, and Mind Frayed reduces your aim. We're just going to Overwatch, because it'll scare the alien into not wanting to move, and it'll have a better chance to hit. Now, as for this guy, my Shiv can take a hit very easily. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put the Shiv here so that the sectoid can't, like, run out and flank us. And the Shiv can just eat that shot, no problem. And we are going to steady, so that we can guaranteed hit that guy.
Maintaining position.
Unfortunate. So yeah, the Shiv does not care. It is fine. We're just going to move one tile closer. Beautiful. And now we have the steadied shot. So as you can see, steadied gives you a very nice bonus. It doubles whatever your aim is. So this guy stood no chance. It also has 35 pin on it, so he's not even getting any protection from his cover.
Good work out there, Strike.
And there you go. Now at the end of the mission, you get the stats breakdown if you want to see stuff.
We can begin researching the newly recovered artifacts immediately.
See a little bit of it. It's kind of neat. Just in case you're a stats nerd. All this is also kept track of for every soldier in your barracks, which I'll show off in a minute. So if you ever want to know if somebody is slacking or overperforming, you can always consult the stats.
Welcome to XCOM HQ, Commander.
Thanks, Bradford.
Impressive work, Commander. Our soldiers have to be feeling good after a mission like that.
Cool.
The recovered artifacts are being unloaded, and the research team
So
is
as I was saying,
orders.
if we go and
Get
look
started
at,
as
say,
soon as you give the order,
graph down
Commander.
here, we can keep track of his global stats. Anyways, this is the starting barracks of every campaign. You start with all of these soldiers. Good old Orlov, Moray, Komarov, Yosef, Gerard, Burns, Saito. You always start with these 5. You start with 1 Shiv and an extra Shiv for every difficulty below Impossible you're on. And then you start with 2 random rookies. And these 3 soldiers are always Lance Corporals already. These 4 are always Specialists already. Pretty nice. Now, what do we want to do here? Well, first we look at our research. We got a few options to begin with, but generally you're going to want to begin with alien weaponry. This gives you access to scopes. Scopes are good. We like aim. Alien materials you can go for if you got alloys, but generally you don't have many alloys from the first mission. You have to kill a drone, I believe, to get any. And then xenobiology. It's nice to get captures and stuff online ASAP, but you can't even build the building unless you have some extra Illyrium. So generally you want to begin with alien weaponry.
I agree. That does seem to.
Now, base layout. The way this works is that the steam vent is always exactly right here. Right? And beyond that, you get, I believe, roughly $1,000 worth of random excavations, randomly spread out. And the way the excavation prices work is that for every tile away from this top middle access lift, it is $50. So this one's 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, right? This one will be 100, 150, 200, 250, yada yada. You see how that works. Basically just the further away from there, the more expensive. So you want to try and build close.
Commander to mission control.
But generally, when you're starting out with a base like this, you just kind of get everything rolling. Now, the way I like to set up my base, I don't know if this is necessarily like the optimal way to do it, but it is pretty close. Is that you want to have your satellite buildings here in this corner. You want to have your power down here. You want to have your labs usually down here, because you already have these unlocked, and these count as workshops. So you want to get these built up here as soon as possible. It's all about those adjacency bonuses. These two spots, you'll usually build the buildings that have no adjacency bonus, because you're not going to get that many satellites.
Every member of the council is going to want satellite coverage, so we should.
You should not expect to save the whole world. There are scaling dangers for going above 2 or 3 continents saved. Generally, you're going to want to sit on 2. So at most, you need like 8 satellites, and usually less than that. In terms of items, we have some stuff unlocked by default. Sawed-off shotguns are like shotguns with 1 ammo that fit in your secondary slot. I highly recommend building a lot of these. It's a reliable way to just say, screw you. The Alien Trophy gives you a little bit of XP and gives you some resistance to mine fray damage. I generally recommend building a few. You're rarely going to mass field them, but you are going to want them. The motion tracker you should always build, at least one of. It gives your Shiv the ability to scout stuff. And we love scouting. And finally, the proximity sensor. This is not particularly useful until seekers start showing up. You can build it before then, and I usually do just so I don't forget about it. And it does have a passive detection through walls. But that's usually not super relevant until you start being on like medium UFOs, where you can close in and see. But like I said, I usually build them so I don't forget about them. And I built 2 just in case one gets damaged.
Commander to mission control. Commander to mission control.
And with all of that, we start with 3 planes. And generally I recommend getting a 4th as soon as possible, and generally also a 5th and 6th as soon as possible. We can't afford them yet. But you really don't want to be lacking. You could take a loan. The loan is a mechanic that exists. If you really want to just spend a lot of cash at once, but generally, you know, because they're surcharges, you want to avoid doing that. And we will go. Okay. So as you might expect, you're going to get a lot of council requests. In general, unless a council request is really going to screw you over, I recommend always taking it. Because regardless of the reward they give, which is usually decent, you get this increased country defense. And country defense helps you fight against random panic, it helps you get reinforcements when you're shooting down UFOs, it helps you get more airstrikes for your officers in tactical missions. It's really good. So I generally recommend always taking it. Generally. There will be some that are very bad to take, but usually you'll know. Okay. Voila. We got stuff. Marksman scopes are for scouts. I generally build 1 or 2, just to make sure I have them for if I want to use them. They only cost money, so... Same with scopes. I generally build like 4 or 5 of them. You'll almost always want a scope on your shooters. And since we can't do anything else right now, we may as well do biology.
This technology has a number of potential applications.
I'll go ahead and queue these up.
The team is eager to begin. I'll notify you as soon as we have something significant to report.
Oh, before I forget, you do always have the build quickly button. It adds a meld cost and a multiplier to all the existing costs. But for some stuff it can be worth it. For example, to produce a satellite building faster to get the money coming ASAP. But in general, just don't do it. Yep, I'll take it.
Operational.
The new engineers arrived this morning, Commander.
Let's keep digging. I generally build the access lifts as soon as possible. And usually try and excavate all of the, like, immediately close spaces, plus the steam vent. But we can go ahead and get these building. And the reason we're building these here is because they count as a workshop for adjacencies. So we do want them to be beside each other.
Contact detected.
Ah yes, the first UFO. So, the UFO TLDR is that if it doesn't have like a strobing effect, and it's low to the ground, it's trying to do like a research mission or a scouting mission or something, and it won't be landing and you want to shoot it down. If it's ever nip of the earth and it's not got like a strobe effect, it's probably about to be landing, or it's conducting like an abduction if it's a large. And if it is strobing and it's nip of the earth, it's probably trying to bomb stuff. Or if it's high up, it's trying to shoot your satellite down. You can go find more details about it at some point, you'll kind of just get used to it, but yeah. So these UFOs that don't have the strobe effect tend to be unarmored, and against unarmored stuff, avalanche missiles, laser cannons, and I think a couple other weapons are pretty decent. And we have 3 different stances we can go. All that changes is the aim, right? So if I were to go lead, I'm more likely to hit, they're more likely to hit. That's usually fine. You can do the math to see what the best ratio is. So like 40 for 236 is not as good as 24 for 105, right? But you have to consider that you want to actually down the UFO, and you want to do it within the time frames. So generally, you prefer a more aggressive stance to make sure that you can actually down the thing. Now, as for how aggressive you want to be, kind of depends. You can do the math on that. We'll go medium for now. When in doubt, go for a medium or lead, to make sure you have enough time to shoot stuff down. Okay. So seeing a situation like this, I really want to make sure we down it, so we're going to send it in lead even though it's less efficient.
Bangs out.
There we go. We did it. So, the UFO. You get some sightings that are of questionable usefulness. Sometimes they're good. Like for this instance, we know for a fact that we're fighting against some thin men and some drones. Because we know aliens are allowed to spawn. But sometimes they'll be less useful than this. We could also just choose to blow up the fucking UFO, which gives you a little bit of alloys and some money. So if you're ever bogged down by fatigue on your soldiers or whatever, there you go. But we're not gonna do that. You get a little preview of the map, kinda nice. So what do we do for a UFO? Well, crashed scouts like this tend to be the easiest missions overall you're gonna do, besides like light abductions. So it tends to be pretty good training mission. I recommend bringing a Shiv on almost every mission, because they share their XP with other soldiers, and they don't have fatigue. So it kinda helps cushion. I will be bringing one of these Lance Corporals. I guess I can go and explain some soldier builds while we're here, since I think we have a little bit of every class. So let's take Komarov. Komarov is weapons, which is either the gunner or the rocketeer. Rocketeers, as you might imagine, shoot rockets. I don't tend to be a huge fan of them. Because, like, with the way I play personally, they require a little too much planning. You typically want to shoot steadied rockets if you can help it. But they are powerful, especially with items. You know, they are big booms. That's all you need. Gunners have big guns, and they have suppression. I tend to prefer gunners. Now, the way classes tend to be designed in general in Long War Rebalance is that they have three main, like, specialties, I'd say. So in this case, we have Will to Survive, which, as you might guess, is very good for somebody that wants to tank hits. This 10 less defense tends to guarantee that they're the target of fire outside of certain situations. And because they have more damage reduction, they'll take less from the hits. Sentinel, as you might take a guess, is really good for Overwatch, and because of the Overwatch rework, Sentinel soldiers tend to be like the highest raw damage you're gonna get out of soldiers. It's just spread out semi-randomly depending on what aliens take actions and where. They tend to be pretty precise, but never like 100% precise. Now for gunners, we also have Mayhem, which is the route you want to go if you want to just suppress things a lot. You get the extra damage. So we're going to take that. Now you might have seen there, we now have sub-specializations. This is a pretty new feature, but basically your perks have other bonuses that you can take with them. Now, I don't know if any of the details of this system will change in the future, but for suppression we can choose either a bigger aim debuff, more damage on suppressive fire, or removing AP from hardened unarmored enemies, so primarily melee aliens and little robots is what this will be effective against. I tend to default to this, because it just does what you do, but better. But, you know, if you want damage on your Mayhem Gunners, there you go. Or if you want to be really good in terror missions, there you go. So we'll take that. Now, squad composition. There's 3 things that you really want in your squad. You can get them in a variety of ways, but there's 3 really important things. You need to be able to take hits. You need to be able to deal with enemy overwatch. And you need to be able to deal enough damage. You can accomplish those in a variety of ways, but, you know, tanking generally involves will to survive soldiers, mechs, shivs, things like that, medics to add more healing, heavy armor. Dealing with Overwatch is a build such as like a bullseye on scouts that are particularly effective at shooting things on Overwatch, or supports that can throw concussions and smoke grenades to deal with Overwatch. Or just being, again, tanky enough to take those hits. It's a little harder to do it that way, especially as the game goes on, but it's an option. And finally, you gotta be able to deal enough damage to kill things. Because the best way to prevent yourself from taking a lot of damage is to get rid of the sources of damage. So, we have our tank. Let's get our way of dealing with Overwatch. I said I like Bullseye Scouts. I don't know if they're necessarily the best way of doing it, but they are a non-consumable way of handling Overwatch fire. But you could go the smoke and mirror support route, because concussions disable Overwatch, things in smoke don't get hit by Overwatch. You could also go for a hit and run, which is very similar to the implementation from Long War 1.0. And you could take impact later on. You also have the option to take Shadow Step to not trigger those shots, and Snapshot to not trigger those shots. So you have ways of dealing with Overwatch a lot on Scouts. But like I said, I tend to like Bullseye. And because of the way Bullseye works, a perk like this tends to be kind of hard to use, because you often are wanting to stand still. So having a better throw range helps with that. Yeah, beyond that, let's just bring some soldiers that we want to trade. I'll bring Burns here. Make him into a medic. Medics heal things. Wow. But they tend to have a lot of... They're either really good at like sustain, because they have a lot of medkits and can heal themselves or others, or they're very good at providing like support fire. They can hollow things. They get lots of shots. They might get free Overwatch shots. Things like that. I would like to bring an engineer, because the engineer's primary role is to heal up mechanical units. And at this point, it's shivs. They also deal with Thin Men. Thin Men don't have poison, they have corrosion, which melts your armor. And we don't like armor being melted or in here. And finally, let's just bring... Let's bring a nice little source of damage. Let's bring Graf. Turn him into a sniper. Snipers do probably what you expect them to do. They get the big guns, they have squad sight. You can choose to either go a more mobile strike rifle path, because these can actually move and shoot, or you can go for the sniper rifle, which is just the big gun. So let's just give him some basic gear. For a soldier like this that's usually out of the line of fire, I just give them fully offensive stuff. Although, we can give him an alien trophy to give him some extra XP. Now, there's a lot of weapon choices. I guess I can go over those briefly. The assault rifle is obviously the generic option. And notably, it has the highest ammo. So if you don't know what else to bring, the assault rifle's fine. The battle rifle is heavier and lacks ammo, and it doesn't have very good crit. But if you do get a crit, it hits hard, and it's got innate penetration and higher damage. So it's the big gun, often for Overwatchers and things. You have the shotgun, of course, which probably does what you expect a shotgun to do. Very good at close range, not so good outside of close range. But they're also not very good against hardened targets. Carbines. Carbines are weaker than assault rifles, but they have a big aim bonus and are even better against aerial targets. They're also a little bit lighter and also have a little less ammo, so they're just a lighter assault rifle a lot of the time. You'll often be putting this on soldiers that you don't really want to be shooting to benefit from the mobility and maybe being able to hit stuff with extra aim. The SMG, it does less damage by default than an assault rifle, and it has less ammo, but it does have more mobility, and more importantly, it has very big crits. So SMGs are the crit weapon. It also has a little bit of aim reduction outside of 10 tiles. They also get burst, which is just a way to even more reliably hit stuff at the cost of some damage. So you've got a lot of options there. I like to take carbines on weak soldiers like this and pair it with a sawed-off shotgun, because then you have a decent weapon that they can hit with, but then you can also just say screw you. And especially this early, I just tend to give up plating to everybody. Being able to tank some hits is very helpful. And we'll bring a smoke grenade as well. Like I said, smoke grenades are good at dealing with Overwatch, but notably they don't have to have smoke and mirrors to ignore Overwatch. So if you don't have any other way of handling it, you should probably bring some. I'll do a very similar loadout for him. Now my Bullseye Scout, Bullseye typically wants to use the strike rifle. They can't use sniper rifles, but the strike rifle is just the big gun with a range. And we don't have too many pieces of equipment, so I'll give them an extra battle scanner. Battle scanners, unlike in Long War, are primarily for their in-battle use than scanning. You can use them for free, it doesn't trigger reaction fire, and it gives aim and crit for the entire squad. Very powerful. Alright, Komarov. The tank typically wants to be using the heaviest stuff he can, really. Back to armor, ceramic plating. Now, gunners have two choices for big guns. They can either choose the Saw, which is just like a generic big gun. They have shredder ammo by default, which is a very powerful effect, multiplying damage taken. But yeah, they're heavy, they're inaccurate, but they are. You can go even further into that direction, even heavier, even more inaccurate, even harder hitting. You even lose an equipment slot. But on top of that, you also get AoE suppression. Generally, conventional wisdom is that overwatching gunners should use the Saw, Mayhem gunners should be using the LMG, and then if you're a tank, you can kind of decide if you want to go more of like this double tap shooting things sort of tank, or the hollow rounds like off-brand Mayhem sort of tank, and from that point you can use one of the two. We'll bring in a Saw for now, so it might actually be able to hit something. And we'll bring a trophy. A little bit of extra health. Now shivs. Shivs get a configuration. You can change this at will. You're never locked into it, so I can choose this, I can choose this. Only one at a time though. You can either choose lock and load for more uptime on your gun, repair servos to tank hits better, or platform stability, which is good if you plan on being a turret. It lets you steady their gun, it gives you some extra aim while they're not moving. I think in general, your default choice is probably just lock and load or repair servos, depending on how much you want to shoot stuff. Early on, enemies tend to not hit hard enough for repair servos to do much, because remember we talked about things rounding down. If you're taking 2 damage at a time, this will do nothing. So I think in general you want to stay with lock and load early, but you can make use of platform stability. And shivs have 2 weapon choices. You either bring the autocannon, which is just a big gun, or you can bring the Vulcan, which is a bigger gun that's heavier, that also can burst, but it has an aim penalty at range. I like the Vulcan. It fits them ramming stuff a lot. That's something I haven't shown off yet, but shivs are able to dash into enemies to ram them. And when you're already in the backline, you may as well start shooting stuff hard too. Alright, rookies, I tend to like giving them a carbine and 2 grenades. Like that's it. There you go. They're useful. Rookies are very basic soldiers. They can only equip those. They don't have a secondary. You may as well just let them throw stuff. And yeah, there you go. That's a squad for a UFO mission. One second. Okay. Here we go.
It looks like the aliens went down in a sparsely populated area.
Alright.
This is Big Sky. We're just north of the crash site. Strike 1 is in position to
So
engage.
soldiers that go to missions on their own continent get a home sweet home bonus. It's a pretty big bonus, although I don't really keep it in mind as much as I probably should. But it's something that you can keep in mind if you want to. Now, I glossed over a little bit what scouts do, but their base perk of reconnaissance is very powerful. It gives you information about aliens when you move. So this is kind of the replacement for throwing battle scanners for information. You can just do like this. There are several aliens in the distance. Sometimes you get more specific info, sometimes you get even less general info. In the distance is usually like more than 10 tiles outside of your line of sight. So we know that there's nobody for a little bit. And this is one of those generic messages that shows you the direction it comes from, but not much else useful than that. So we are just going to move forward. Now you might be asking, why would I just dash instead of crawling around the map? Well, there's a few reasons. 1, meld is always ticking down. 2, the fatigue cost of missions goes up with how long you spend. 3, if you finish missions particularly fast, the council will gift you a cash reward. So, if you can do it safely, you generally want to play missions faster. Plus you can't Overwatch crawl. Now before you get into a fight, you typically want to do a round of combat readiness, if you can help it. But, in general, you want to be scooting. I'm trying to move forward a lot, but not too much further than the scout is detected. Because we don't know for sure where the aliens are.
Roger, tracking.
Okay. That's just a random little bonus. Sometimes your soldiers get a little mood-related buff or debuff. Anyways, I'll go ahead and move him up so that is out of the scout's way. Alright. Where are the enemies? Several enemies in the vicinity. I usually think of in the vicinity as like 5 to 10 tiles outside a line of sight, so the aliens are probably like here-ish. So let's do this again. Not very specific. But because we have this big rock in the way, we can probably just run up really far to here.
Yes, sir.
And we can get ready to engage them more closely.
Orders confirmed. Moving out.
Location confirmed.
Although our sniper is gonna do sniper things. You don't want your snipers to be too far out of line of sight, because by default, there is a range penalty for squad sight. -5 per tile, unless you're using a sniper rifle, and then it's like -2 per tile. You can get rid of that with one of the sub-specs, but it tends to be an opportunity cost, so you'd better safe than sorry.
Shut up, blessed.
Alright, here we go again. Several aliens in the vicinity. Okay. Just outside visual. Okay, so aliens are probably right here-ish. We can keep that in mind. Now if we move the shiv up to here, do we see anything? No. Alright, we will keep sneaking up on them as best as we can. See, this is one of those turns where I'm trying to do blue moves instead of dashes, because I'm expecting to fight them next turn. So if I can get a combat readiness boost, it's pretty nice. And if you ever in-turn, like manually, it'll just give everybody the combat readiness. Alright, drones. Hooray. Now, because it's a crashed mission, every alien is starting off with damage to various degrees. You might have also wondered why those outsiders activated, if you're new. Any enemies that can see an activated enemy will also become activated. So there's a lot less of this whole tiptoeing around pods thing. It's gonna sprawl into a big firefight, but as you've seen, you can take hits. You're supposed to take hits. Now drones? What do drones do? Well, drones are, they're low on health, but they have a good bit of default damage resistance. They still can repair stuff. They're a little hard to hit because they're flying. And notably, they're very good against your own mechanicals, because they have critical system targeting. They can spread hollow, and they also have multiple Overwatch shots, so they don't hit very hard, and they're not very tanky, but they do tend to be a nuisance, especially to your shivs and stuff. They also have their own form of the Psychic Storm in the form of the Orbital Ray. We're not going to worry about that right now. So we're going to start this off by throwing the battle scanner in this general area, because it'll give us the aim and crit bonus that we want. And now we're just going to take some shots. Now as for who we want to shoot, let's try and take this shot. Okay. The carbine is good at hitting these guys. Let's see, so who has a good shot for that? We also use suppression. Suppression is pretty decent against uncovered enemies like this, although with assault it's not that good. But we do have the option of taking a burst shot. The damage is low, but I think we're just going to suppress. Because the way suppression works is that if you have mayhem, it does damage right away. If they're in cover, it removes one of their AP. Otherwise, it just does a tick of damage. And then when they go to take an action, it does another tick of damage. So this will deal 2 damage twice, and it'll just kill it. So that's a dead drone, as long as it doesn't get interrupted. Now the rest of my soldiers, I kinda just want to gun down those guys with carbines. So that's what we're gonna try and do. We have the battle scanner, so our shots are better. Let's see what we can do. Cool. need to hit that one. As always, it's typically better to be in high cover than low cover, if you can help it. High cover is 50% DR and 50 defense. Low cover is 30 and 30. So it's still usable, but it can be scary. Our shots, our chance hits going to be pretty mediocre because of the squad sight. We're still going to take it because I think we may as well. Okay, cool. But if there were more enemies still alive, I probably would have taken the opportunity to do a steadied shot rather than 50-50 coin flipping. Alright. That's the last run. So this, we already know is dead. So now we need to deal with the outsiders.
Position confirmed.
You can only steady or overwatch with things in sight, and steady will go away if there's an enemy not in sight. But the outsiders might walk into us, so we'll do a steady. And we'll put the drone, or the ship up here to take some hits. Goodbye. Okay, the outsiders did not move into us, therefore the steady's about to wear out, I believe. Or if it doesn't wear out, that's a bug. Not that we can use it, because we have to move anyway. Alright, let's go see what the outsiders are up to. Okay, well, they're pretty easily flanked. But this is an opportunity to show off the Rams. Although we're not going to do it quite yet. They have close combat specialists, so we don't really want to eat shots. Do we have any good flank shots on them? I mean, despite how poor their positioning is, I don't think we have very good shots. So I guess we'll go ahead and show off the Ram. So how does Ram work? Well, if you go more than 8 tiles, or roughly 8 or more, in a mostly straight line, the definition can be kind of fudgy. You can do a Ram, and the Ram does damage based on their health and distance. Now, this is going to trigger close combat specialist shots, but like, we gotta do it, right? Here comes the ship. Choo choo. Also, if you're wondering, the reason their chance to hit was so low is because when you're dashing, reaction fire has a 30 aim penalty, I believe. Okay, so we dealt with that guy. You can see an indicator on them, so like, you see a red eye, that's because you can only see them if you have squad sight. Green eye means you can just see them. The 14F means they're 14 tiles away and this is a flank. So you want to rely on that information a lot when you're planning your moves. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we can really get in sight with you. Now, these aren't always 100% truthful.
Roger, tracking.
But usually you can trust them. It's XCOM 1, it's not exactly a very moddable game. Now what we're going to do, I think, with him, is we're just going to overwatch. What he's likely going to do is just take a shot at the Shiv, so we may as well make him not want to move. And if he does hit us, maybe we'll tickle him anyway. Tickling him to get rid of his 1 little armor health would be nice. And we'll just move everybody else up to prepare to capitalize on that next turn. So normally a position like this would be kind of risky, because they can very easily flank you. But because somebody's overwatching and because there's a good target in sight, he probably won't bother moving the flank.
Understood. Moving in.
Now if he does flank, it could be bad. But, you know. Okay. Well, we didn't get the tickle. And the ship did get hit. but that's what it's there for.
Я в пути.
Now let's see if we can just kill the guy. Oh.
Урон нулевой.
Getting it done.
One thing I should mention is that Outsiders also have dampening shields, so if you are more than 10 tiles away, they'll get more and more DR from it, as you can see here. They're getting 8 from it, and also anything over 50 is hit. But if you ever needed more in-depth explanation of it, you can see it here. We're gonna try and take the shot. Cool. He's now vulnerable. He doesn't have his base DR anymore.
Solid copy.
So our next shot should be a kill, if it crits, I guess. Well, if it crits and does a high roll, in the case of the carbine. We can guaranteed kill this guy with our shiv, so we may as well take some shots out of cover and see if we can get it. Okay. Cool. Don't ever do risky moves without a backup plan. But if you do have a backup plan, go away. Now, these Outsiders are important for another reason, too. On UFO maps in particular, once you engage the Outsiders, every other alien on the map knows that you've engaged the Outsiders, and they come running this way to back them up. So the other aliens that are on the map will be arriving soon. How soon? I don't know. Depends. But they are coming. And we want to be ready. Alright, well, we can use our scout to find out how close they are. Alright, that'll be a little bit before they get here. So we could look for some meld, we could go run to them. Take some time to set up.
Go ahead, cover. Let's rock.
The amount of meld you get out of meld canisters depends on how many turns they have left. So generally it's better to get them sooner rather than later. If you can help it. I think we're going to go with the approach of moving towards them. Because you also automatically get all of the meld if you just kill all of the enemies. I like keeping units out of line of sight like that because of enemy Overwatch. Overwatch only works on the things that they see. So if you're not in sight when they Overwatch, you are not affected by the Overwatch. And you can just run out and shoot them. And get rid of it or whatever. It's pretty important to keep in mind. Because nothing is worse than getting locked down by a bunch of Overwatch when you don't have a counter for it.
Moving.
Alright. We're just going to keep creeping forward a little bit. I expect an engagement anytime now, so I'm doing a lot of combat readiness. As the name implies, it's good to do combat readiness when you're ready for combat. And let's intern.
I don't think we're alone out here.
Yeah, they are. Hey, it's the Thin Men.
Look up! Enemies rolling up!
Now, Thin Men. Thin Men are unique because they have low profile, for one. So all of their cover counts as full cover. Beyond that, they also have Shadow Shot, so they ignore Overwatch fire, at least with basic shots, and are very good at killing tanks. And beyond that, they still have Leap and the ability to spit corrosion at you. So these guys, you'll see them throughout the game, they tend to be a little bit of a menace. But, yeah, they're slippery little bastards. So, as you can see, this guy's on Overwatch, but these guys aren't seen, so they are not affected by the Overwatch. So we can instead just move up here and say, hey you, mister. I don't like you. We are going to throw this battle scanner for aim though. Yeah, our Shiv can just say, hey you, Mr. Drone. I don't like your face. There is no more Overwatch. Now, if we can deal with this thin man... this guy can't do anything else, so we may as well just take the shot and see if he kills it. Cool. Alright, Mr. Rookie here, I believe, can get a pretty good grenade off. So this guy does have the ability to hit all of them with a grenade. We don't want to blow them up, because in Long War Rebalance, explosives will destroy corpses. You get everything else from it, but the corpse is gone. And drone wrecks are pretty good. They give some nice little bonuses. So we're going to try and kill them with everybody else first. Oh, we've got the backup plan.
Okay. He's down.
Do we have a suppression anywhere? Not quite. Any shots with you? Yeah, there's a shot. Hey, easy.
Mission accomplished.
Well, there you go. So see, we ended the mission before the meld expired, so we got it anyway. Fancy.
Not a single casualty among the entire squad. That takes a solid effort.
And there you go. That's your generic scout mission. Okay, I think I'm gonna call it for there. I'm not used to doing more informative educational stuff, so if there's anything that I should be doing differently, or going more in depth about or whatever, let me know. Yeah, that'll be all I'm gonna do for now. We'll continue next time. So, adios.